We now know each other. Laura and I took, by the way, our data analytics bootcamp together when I was living in Maryland. And Laura, you still there, Laura?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Linnea and I have both been part of an open source project that is a Clojure open source project.
Okay.
It's a note-taking app called Athens Research.
Okay.
So that's how we all know each other, I think. Yes. Cool. Let me get started. I'm going to start recording here. And if for any reason you need me to stop recording, for any reason, you just say, hey, can we stop the recording? We'll stop the recording too. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Cool. So we're in day 1 of our Clojure Bootcamp. And I'm just recording my screen here with our notes. So I'm using a website called Nextjournal just to hold the notes in here. I could put this on any website, but I just went with this because it was easy and simple for me. So we've already introduced ourselves to each other, people who are available here today for first night. And I want to quickly overview the content. And if you have any questions on that, I can elaborate. Day 1 today is going to be first exposure to Clojure, first look. We're going to do a little coding. Tomorrow we'll do some Git and GitHub to save and share files. That's crucial in open source, and also not open source, in closed source as well. Day 3 will be some more Clojure and installing Clojure locally for those people who don't already have Clojure installed on their home machines. Day 4, we'll go back to Git and GitHub to start actually contributing to open source projects. We'll look at, how does one do that? How does one find the right projects to contribute to? And then how do you do that successfully? And then the last day, Friday, we'll have our final project, which may or may not include presentations, depending on how people feel about their material, how confident they feel with the content, and might they like to practice, presenting to their, peers. And there'll be also a final bootcamp review, which is both me reviewing the content for anyone who wants a final overview recap, but also this cohort reviewing me and the bootcamp, saying, how did we like it? What could be made better, and such. Any questions on any of that? And you can also type, if you don't want to use your voice, you could also type your questions in the chat. I'm going to look at the chat real quick here. See if I can see any questions. No questions at the moment. Cool. All right. So I think we're ready to jump into exploring writing some Clojure together for the first time. So I'm going to paste this link one more time into, I'm going to paste this link into the Zoom chat. It's the maria.cloud/cb-intro. And that opens up this link here, which says, welcome to Clojure Bridge. And by the way, for anyone watching this video wondering why there's this black strip down here, that's where we're going to put the subtitles. That's the intention. So Clojure Bridge is an awesome program. To my knowledge, it is over in London, but I could be mistaken about that. Oh, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Avi. I've been a programmer for 5 years. I should have included that. That would be a next, how to improve. Introduce the instructor. I'm Avi Drucker, and I have been a programmer for about 5 years. I've been a teacher for about a little over 10 years now. And I just love writing code and sharing the joys of code with other people. So I'm sure something else will come up later that might seem relevant to share with you guys about my back history or skill set. But yeah, I probably know over a dozen or so languages, but Clojure right now is my favorite. So is anyone here, raise your hand, anyone here wasn't able to get to maria.cloud to this link? Anyone? Okay, cool, good, we're all good, nice. We're just gonna follow along with the instructions here for now. So that way, you know, if there's anything that's not clear in the instructions here, we can find that together. So as I say here, put your cursor at the end of falling code block. This white or lighter square rectangle is a block of code. And I'm just gonna put my mouse, my cursor to the right-hand side, and then I'm gonna hit Control type. The character is Control Enter. And if you got it right, you should also see a black dot appear to the right of this cell of code or block of code. It's both a cell and a block. I don't know how to square that away, but usually you could call this a cell of code. This website, maria.cloud, allows you to both type code, Clojure code, and also lets you run Clojure code. So they say here, you just drew a circle by evaluating that code, and then going down to the next, and you're welcome to go on ahead. You don't have to go at my pace, but I'm just gonna go through cell by cell. So I hit Control Enter in the next cell, and instead of having a circle printed or painted to the right of the cell, this time it prints out some text. What is circle? Well, it's a function. So circle is, it says here, a function, something you call with input that returns output. That's very technical sounding. So looking up above, what is this code? There's just two things in here. There's circle and 25. If I hold the mouse over, if I click on this word circle here, at the bottom of the screen, you see where it says shapes.core. It's actually giving me what's called the documentation for this code. So it says this function is called circle. It takes something called a radius. So that's the first number, 25, that we give it. That'll be its radius, probably in pixels. And then it says returns a circle of radius, probably of radius. Radius. That sounds confusing. Of X radius, maybe, for example. So if I change this number to 50, think about for a second what might happen. And I'm gonna hit again, Control Enter on my computer because I'm Windows. And we see that we're getting a bigger circle. Any questions about what just happened there? Not just yet.
Not yet, yeah.
So this, if you're used to programming in other languages, you'll look at this and say, this is very strange looking code. Why is it wrapped in parentheses? How does circle know that this 50 is gonna be the radius? We'll go over that. But suffice to say for now, Clojure is what's called a Lisp. So I'm gonna put this in I have a Coggle. This is like a mind map, and I will share this link with you as well. I'll share with you the Coggle link right now. That's gonna be one of my note-taking spots for this workshop tonight. Putting it in the group chat, Coggle mind map. And I'm not married to Coggle. Just happen to like it. It's easy to share. And if you guys see something else that you like, feel free to take notes however you like. And feel free to contribute that to your cohort or not. But I'm going to add here a vocabulary Lisp, L-I-S-P. That's one. And if you notice me using any other words that sound like jargon, you know, words you've never heard before, technical terms, please let me know and I'll add it to this list, this Coggle mind map. And just showing you what I do if I didn't know the word. Google, search for that word, Lisp. Now, this is not correct. We need actually in computing, a high-level computer programming language devised for list processing. That's where Lisp comes from. It comes from list processing. So I'm just going to copy this definition and add it here. There you go. So we got Lisp. So Clojure is a Lisp, which means it's written with parentheses, and basically we just write in order a list of things in those parentheses. And that will be us making this is just us making a circle of radius 50. So let's keep going on. And any questions while we're here to make this kind of more dynamic and interactive? No questions.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's okay. That's totally fine. You might go through this and be like, hey, there was no need for me to even have a group environment, but we're here just in case. So I'm going to start going through these guys, but I want us to, please.
For all the times I have talked about Lisp and even played with Lisp, I did not know that that's why it was called Lisp. So I'm really, I'll never forget now.
Yay. So yeah, no, some of these things might seem not so important, and you might not feel that it's important until very much later. You may never feel that it's important. You don't need to know the word Lisp or the meaning of it to be able to write Clojure. But hopefully it adds some extra context. And if I think of it, please.
Oops, sorry. So from what I understand, Clojure is sort of like a dialect of Lisp. Maybe you could talk about how those two are related.
Right. So there's a whole family. I'm going to go again to Google. Google's my friend. Lisp languages. So there are a bunch of different languages that are Lisps that belong to the Lisp family. And, you know, just taking a look through the diagrams here, I'm trying to see something that makes it clear the connection of, you know, to Clojure.
So when you say that it's family, am I okay in thinking that, you know, like English is from Old Germanic, but it's quite different from German? Like, are each of these languages related to each other, or are they like as different as English would be to German?
That's a great question. Tell me if I'm misinterpreting. I'm going to reinterpret that question as how similar is Clojure to other Lisp languages? Is that a fair reinterpretation?
Yeah, and how similar is it to Lisp, I guess, too?
So to my knowledge, there is no strict language called Lisp. At least I may be mistaken about that. Is there a language called Lisp? Yeah, to my knowledge, and I may be mistaken about this, Lisp is a family of programming languages. So there's a specification for it, which is to say that there's like a rule set. There's a list of rules that say this is the rules you must follow to be a Lisp. Right?
Only Fortran is older. My heavens.
So
we don't have to.
It is the second oldest high-level programming language.
But I thought you said it wasn't a language; it was a family of like what is?
Yes,
How
yes.
does
So
that
here
work?
they say on the first line they say Lisp is a family of programming languages. Then they say here Lisp is the second oldest high-level programming language. I think it would be fair to say it is the second oldest high-level programming language family. It might be. It might
came
be
along and had like quadruplets or octuplets or something all at once. All of the languages in the family were born at the same time.
It says here, we can go back and look at the original history of it. It says here that today Racket Common Lisp, Scheme, and Clojure are the most well-known general-purpose Lisp dialects.
That makes more sense. I'm thinking of Common Lisp. I was just really shocked that it wasn't a language, and I'm like, that does not make any sense. But I think I'm confusing it with Common Lisp. Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I think to say that it's the dialect is to say that they're very similar, syntactically very similar. I don't have a great analogy in non-Lisp programming. So, for example, I know the C family of languages, C family of programming languages. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I just got a tea delivery. Thank you. You were kind. Okay. So the C family includes things like JavaScript and C# and Python and Java, all these languages. And ironically, or say interestingly enough, Clojure is built off of Java. So you can use a non-Lisp language to build a Lisp language. It's really interesting. You can have higher level languages that are built out of lower level languages. And I could use Clojure to build another language on top of that.
So is it like a Pidgin or Creole, or like, can you make a metaphor with spoken language, or maybe it doesn't fit like that?
I don't think it fits like that, though I may be mistaken. I think it's more like within a language, you can have other languages. So for example, within English, we can have different dialects of English, sure. Like we can have a British dialect, you can have an American dialect. I'm on the free version of Zoom, by the way. And if anyone has a paid version, please let me know. Would love to get your help. But what I'll do is, this will help keep the videos segmented, and then I can even label them. For now, at least, that'll be a helpful, I'll take it as a helpful constraint. So,
well, and mine will record all of it, so.
Yay, awesome. So we could say that the PHP, JavaScript, Python, C#, they're all dialects of the C programming language. They're all in the same family. But you could also say that Clojure is built on top of it. We use Java to build Clojure, build and run. The meaningful aspects of that, I think, get lost when we try to make metaphors of them. But I think a really helpful thing to keep in mind here is, if this interests you, if it's, you don't feel like it's relevant, you can, don't focus too strongly on this. Low-level programming versus high-level. I'm going to look to see if I can find a quick image here. Basically, you have different levels of programming language. So here, this is a great image here, which I found here, and I'll get the link and share it. Basically, on the bottom, we have machine code. This is zeros and ones. Then we get something like assembly, a low-level program where you're loading values into and out of memory, or into registers and out of registers. And you have these 3 or 4 letter commands. And then on top of that, we might have a higher level language, such as C++ or Python. Actually, I think Python compiles down to C. So you can have on top of this another layer. So let's say we call it machine code 0, and this assembly 1, and this, let's say this is for example, let's call this Python. It's not Python. Let's say we call it JavaScript. Then if we had something on top of that, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3. It would be a third level up. So you can have infinitely high languages built on top of languages. I want to say an example in English would be legalese. Legalese is built on top of English, in English. So you have English legalese. Or, say, English slang. we have English, and then on top of English, we've got English slang. Another example might be Pig Latin, made out of English. So you'd have to have the base English language, and then we have on top of that a higher version of that. It's not a great example, but that was the best I could do on the spot. Could either of you guys think of another metaphor that better describes high level versus low level languages?
Not right now.
That is okay.
I think
there are other differences between
Oh.
high level, low level, and some of the differences might be lost when we start thinking that you can have level upon level upon level.
maybe
But
a good one would be in Thailand. There is sort of an accepted just Thai that is common between the people, but anytime you're talking about royalty or talking to royalty or showing great level of respect, you have an entire new register that you will shift into.
Interesting. Wow. That sounds super interesting and cool. That reminds me of Japanese. Well, let's see. I want to see how I'm doing on time here. It looks like I've got 5 minutes left on this particular session, and then we'll just restart at the same call. I want to give some words to what the code we have here. Before I go back to the code, were there any other questions before I go back to the code? Okay. So as it says here, we evaluate the code. That means to run the code. I'm going to, if I can, see if I can go back to our vocab list and add evaluate. And I'm just going to put in parentheses code. And that's a synonym with to run or execute code. Right. They give us this what's called a function. What is? So circle up here is an example of a function. And that's why it's highlighted here, here in red. The things that are red in this editor, in this Maria.cloud, are functions. So what is also a function. If I click on it, I can see down here at the bottom of the screen again, I'm getting a little documentation for this function. And it says here, what is takes something and returns a string describing what kind of thing is. So we have two functions here, and I'm going to add two more words. We've got documentation, and we have functions. Code that does something. That's a function. And documentation are, you say, notes that describe code. Put loosely. We might get a better definition for some of these things as we go along. So what do you guys think this next function might do? Think about it for a second. You may have already run it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run it. We got a black square. We're also seeing down here, it says returns a square of dimension side. So when we put in this number 50, it gets interpreted as the first argument of this square function. So let's see here. We got argument. And we'll come back to that. So here now, it's suggesting here, I'm getting a Carrie, welcome Carrie. We're getting a function down here which suggests that or a code block here that suggests we run this code with two arguments. Hey there, Carrie. And so I'm going to go ahead and try and run that by hitting Control Enter. And we get an error message. You should have gotten an error message. And it says here, the function circle needs to be called with a different number of arguments. So this is what happens when we have either too many or too few arguments. This function circle, when I click on circle, you can see down here it says it just takes a radius. And here we're trying to pass we're trying to give to this function two arguments, two things, 20 and 10. And that won't work. So if I erase this 10 and hit Control Enter, now it works. But just to leave that in there as an example, I'll run that again. And I'll go back to our Coggle mind map, and I'm going to add in here, what was it here? We have arguments. Oh, passing, yes. To pass an argument. We can define that loosely as to give something to a function, such as a value. An argument would be a value given to a function. So we generally say we pass the argument. You might also hear the word parameter, but they have different meanings. Any questions here at this point? We've got less than a minute on this particular call, and we're going to reboot on the same Zoom link.
Nope, good.
Okay. Well, we'll just let the time run out here. But Carrie, I'll introduce you when we start up the next call, and then I'll turn the recording back on.
Okay. So let me leave my phone. So I'm Carolyn. It's nice to meet you all. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I was having some tech issues, but it's good now.
You're so fine. It's just great to have you here. Round our number very nicely. Laura and I went to boot camp at Montgomery College together.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
You guys could feasibly meet up if you ever wanted to.
Cool. Yeah, I'm in Silver Spring, so.
Carrie and I are friends through a mutual friend, my last housemate actually, and Lene and I have been contributing to an open source project that happens to be a Clojure project.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a note-taking app, yes. Would anyone here like to ask anyone anything? Oh, Carrie, do you mind if I share that you've studied some code also?
Sure. Yeah, Python.
Some Python and UX as well. So I think you and Lene would have some really cool conversations talking about education, because Carrie is a school teacher as well.
My condolences.
Hugs.
That's the hardest job.
I tried doing a long-term sub job, and I'm like, it wasn't the kids that were so bad; it was the parents. Like,
yeah,
oh
exactly.
God.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
When I decided to leave engineering back in school, I took a couple teaching courses, and I did my I forget what it's called, but I observed a 7th grade English class, and I was like, nope. It was like the first thing I was like, oh, nope, this is not going to work. Nope. I don't know what grades you teach, but I ended up in education, but in higher education, so it's not as many parents.
Yeah, juniors in high school, so.
Okay.
Older. There were a couple parents.
Thank you for your service.
So I don't know if I should share my screen just yet because I'm still processing the recording from the last Zoom. And Linnea suggested we switch over to Google Meets or Google Hangouts instead of Zoom. Carrie, you don't have access to a paid Zoom, do you?
It's not paid, but I don't think my account has any limits because I'm a teacher.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think you can just record, and I don't actually use it for work because they switched us to Teams. So. Oh,
no kidding! Microsoft.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I think my Zoom's like unlimited on the weekdays. I don't know if it would be today because it's a holiday, but probably Friday.
Oh, they
But it's
really like to
unlimited.
throttle that, don't they? Like, ooh, you are not allowed to do anything for work
I
on the
don't know.
weekends.
Or maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I mean, if we wanted to switch to that, we could try and see, or maybe next time. I don't know.
Mine is at 84%. The recording is 84% finished converting, so maybe it doesn't matter. I don't think my computer will explode. I wanted to ask you guys if there's anything else you want to talk about before we get back in and start recording again. No pressure.
I am just going to let you know that from a video standpoint, you've got some hairs that are like going lots of directions and kind of like wobbling, which is wonderful. Yes. I just don't know if you wanted that in the video because it's just hard to tell what it is, what's happening. So I'm like very watching it. Like I said,
I have, you know,
just a video.
I have a lot of hair.
It's wonderful, and yeah, it's take it with a grain of salt and do whatever you want with it. I just thought I'd let you know that.
I might wrap my hair up next time just so it's not like all over the place. Also, I'm thinking to get my beard groomed and trimmed. But you weren't commenting on the beard, but my mother commented on my beard yesterday, and she was like, Avi, get it trimmed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because you're my mother, I have to listen to you. Yeah, no, I don't want to distract anyone. I don't want to be unprofessional beyond being a hippie. I want to be a professional hippie.
Be a professional hippie. I think it's mostly because the headphones create a black line, and then there's a hair that's coming up, and it's like, wait, what is that? It's not hair. Wait, it is hair. No.
It's a furry animal that lives on my head. It's a furry
animal that lives in your head. It's a tribble.
Okay, let's see here. It's asking me where I want to have this file saved. I think that is acceptable. The Zoom folder. Okay. I would like to try one more time sharing the screen with Zoom, and then the next one we can switch to Google, just because I'm concerned that maybe I'll get new technical difficulties that I wasn't ready to handle.
Oh, you can handle it. You're good.
With your guys' help, maybe I can. It's a team effort. Let's see. So I'm sharing, and I'm gonna hit record again. Is that okay with you guys? It's not recording your videos. It's just recording my screen. Is that cool? Okay. At least on my side, it's just recording. If you want, I can pin my video. Linnea, I should pin my video?
Just 1 second. I'm getting it the same setup I had before going.
I can't hear you, Linnea.
I'm getting it set up so the video looks the same as it did before.
Thank you. You were kind.
Okay.
I guess I don't need myself pinned. But you let me know if you want me pinned. Try saying something.
I have it set up.
Laura, can you try saying something? Also, I cannot hear you, Linnea.
Okay, I can say something. Should I say? I'm Laura.
Yes, you did it. Does that change the who's shown video-wise, Linnea?
I just get a yellow box around my speaker.
Same. Okay. Let me know when we're ready to go, Linnea, and I will start.
We're ready.
Yay. Okay, cool. So I'm also recording here.
Recording in progress.
So we're back after the break. And what we just did is we went over, and feel free to interrupt me anytime with any questions you have. Went over a little bit of Maria.cloud, the Clojure Bridge intro. I'm going to share that link one more time in the chat because we are restarting our Zoom one time over here. So that's the Clojure Bridge link, and that's the first Clojure playground that we have to work with, as well as this note these notes, a mind map, using this website called Coggle. Mind map. So feel free to suggest to me to add any vocab or questions here. I've also have the notes in this next journal as well. So I wanted to spend another about 15 minutes just going through Maria.cloud, and then we could go back to discussing maybe how we can like shape this boot camp together. My hope is that we do this collaboratively as much as possible. Less top down, me telling you how to do this, and more like us together collectively thinking about what would bring us joy. Beyond the, this is the overview that I thought up, but we could totally change it up. Like I'm thinking for day 5, for example, we could do final presentations or group projects or just a solo individual project or some combination as people are feeling up for it. So going back to Clojure Bridge, just to run each cell of code, I hit Control Enter. So if I change this to back to 25 and hit Control Enter, while the mouse is clicked in here, it will re-render this circle. And I ran the first 4 cells of code. And in this 4th cell of code, we get this error, which Linnea was asking, what is FN arity? So FN would stand for function. That's a little abbreviation there. And arity means how many arguments. So I'm going to put that here under vocabulary. This is not critical vocabulary, but it's still vocabulary, and I'll put in here. So arity means the number of arguments a function can take. And argument is defined here as a value given to a function. Functions are code that do things. And we will expand on these definitions. And FN is just an abbreviation for function. So does that make it clear? Well, maybe. It's basically saying here, this function wasn't prepared to handle 2 arguments. It can handle 1 because, Control Enter. And there it goes, no error. It just makes a black circle. But if I run circle with no arguments, again, just write circle in parentheses and hit Control Enter. Again, it'll say FN arity. And this time it says the function circle needs to be called with more arguments. In other words, more than 0. But if I give it back 20 and 10, let's say, for example, and hit Control Enter, it says, again, the original error message. So sometimes they give us a more helpful error message and sometimes less helpful. What we can do with this FN arity is copy it, select it, copy it, open up a new window, and what I'll do is I'll type Clojure, and then I'll paste in the error message. And it actually expanded it for me. I don't know if you could see that when I clicked in here and typed that. It actually expanded out that word FN to functionality. And it's actually bolding down here, arity exception. That is the error that we were getting, an arity exception. Which gives us 2 new words, error and exception. And I won't go into, I'm going to probably move exception down here just so they're next to each other. That'll be nicer to see them next to each other. And function and arity and argument also should be next to each other, probably. All right. And so error and exception, for now, we're just going to say a bad behavior of a program. When it does something you don't want it to do. An exception is something that surprises your program. Also probably not good. There's a slight nuance difference there, which I don't think is too important to focus on right now. But generally, when something goes wrong with your program, it's either going to be an error or an exception. And I think I can say that exceptions happen when your program is running, but I may be incorrect about that. So we'll come back to that. I'll put it as a question for later. And I don't think you have to worry about it for now. What is the difference between an error and an exception? Okay. Any questions for me at this juncture? Oh, okay. So I'll come back here to our Maria.cloud Clojure Bridge intro. So it's saying here, don't worry, errors happen to every programmer. Stay positive, track down the misunderstanding between you and the computer. In this case, we gave circle one too many arguments. Did that clear up, by the way, about the FN arity, Linnea? Good, good, cool. Sometimes you get errors in your program that it can't clearly describe to you, or it can't give it to you in a human readable way. And those we can call sometimes stack traces, where you just get lines of what might look like gibberish. But generally it's not gibberish, it's just not necessarily super well human formatted for human consumption. Stack traces. Lines printed out by your program, by a program when error occurs. Lines that are sometimes printed out by a program when an error occurs. So that way you can find out what happened. It's called a stack trace. Here we're not getting a stack trace, but later on we might get one. So to ask here, what if we'd already known that circle need to be given just one radius argument, and then they tell you how to put your cursor on the circle expression. So if I click the cursor onto circle down here at the bottom, it's showing documentation again. So this is definitely a skill. And I would say this is a Maria specific skill. You can only do this thing where you click on a function and get some documentation down below in Maria. So I'll go over here to Coggle and add a Maria skill. Maria Cloud specific. And say click on a function to get its documentation. And then I'll do some Clojure skills. I'm going to say execute. That's not a Clojure function. Give a function an argument. We did that when we gave 25 to circle. And one more Maria Cloud specific skill. It's a little hard to see the word skill, so I'm going to move it over. Oh no. There we go. That's better. One more Maria specific is run a cell of code by hitting Control and Enter. So these are some things we can do with Maria Cloud and some things we can do with Clojure. Give a function argument. Let's see, what else can we do? Here they're using the doc function. So if I hit Control Enter, it will actually print to the right the same documentation we got down below. So if I click on circle, I'm actually not getting the documentation for circle. Put your cursor on the circle expression.
Yeah,
oh, I see why. Because circle here isn't a function. But if I click on circle up here, it is a function. So depending on where a word is written, it will change its behavior or change what it is. So here, circle is in red, and forgive me if you have color viewing difficulties. My computer highlights this as red. It's the main takeaway is that it's the first item. in this sequence of circle, 20, and 10, circle is the first, therefore it is the function. It's in the function position. So I'm going to go over to our coggle, and I'm going to say knowledge. We can make this a skill, but I'll just say knowledge here for now, and we can convert to a skill later if we like, which is the first item or first thing in a list in Clojure is the function, is a function. You can say a function or function call. That here, function call. A function call is different from a function in the sense that a function call is when where a function is actually used. Also called a function invocation. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit here, and feel free to ask me to zoom back in anywhere. I'm going to try to make this visible to everyone. Yeah, I don't need to mess around with these right now, actually. So I'll try and make this more pretty later. Or I might ask someone if they would like to in our group, if they might like to help me make this more beautiful later. It's not so important to look gorgeous right now. So I'll zoom in to 100%. Okay. So let's see here. So we're using the doc function on circle, or we're giving circle to the doc function. And that just prints out the documentation here, which is the same as when we I left mouse clicked on the circle function up here. So you can see the documentation we're getting down the bottom left corner of my screen is the same that's printed out here on the right side. So you can use code in Maria Cloud to give you information about code. So for example, we can use doc on the what is function that we saw up above, which is right here. This what is function. So I can actually write parentheses doc what dash hyphen is. And if I execute that code with Control Enter, tells me that this what is function belongs to Maria friendly kinds, takes a thing, and it returns a string, which is some text, describing what kind of thing is. If that's confusing, no worries, that's okay. But feel free to tell me if that's confusing, and I will see if I can give you some more clarity. Let's see here. String. That's some more new vocabulary for some people. String would be actual text, including letters, numbers, punctuation, and white space. So it could be like sentences, or could be a phone number, because that's just text also. Let's see here. Okay, I don't see any. By the way, you can leave questions in the chat if you want to as well. Just a reminder. So you might have noticed that when I want to type in this doc what is, this new code that I added here, all I had to do was click in a pre-existing cell and then hit the Enter key. And then it creates a blank new fresh cell for me to write new code in. Let's say I want to make another circle. Circle and 50. Control Enter. Or let's say I guess that there's the triangle function, TRIANGL. There is. And if I hit, let's say I change the number 25, Control Enter, that's kind of small. There you go, I got a black triangle. So feel free, while I'm going along, to make a new cell by hitting Enter. Make a new code cell by hitting enter while in a cell. And that should give you a new code cell. While at the end of an existing cell.
Ooh, got some Sprite.
Let me see if I can make that bold. Yay! Run a cell of code. So I like to highlight specifically skills, the things you can do. Clojure is a very useful language, and making clear what you can do in this language will help you decide this is a good language for you to use. You will benefit from learning Clojure, I believe, because it is a fantastic language with a lot of growth potential as well. We can talk a little bit further. I want to leave it to later in this evening workshop to talk about the glories and awesomeness of Clojure. But suffice to say, after programming for 5 years in over a dozen languages, I can tell you confidently that I think Clojure is the best language I've ever worked with. Not just because it appeals to me, but I think it's something that other people should consider using and consider working with and consider using. So going back to here, I'm saying, I'm going to actually use this what is function to ask Clojure, this Clojure environment. I can say, hey, tell me what is 25? And I said the word environment, so I'll add that. Feel free to call me out if I say something that sounds like technical jargon, by the way, Carrie and everyone. So if we ask, we use this what is function to describe what 25 is. It says, oh, it's a number. It could be a whole number, a decimal number, even a ratio. So we can test that out. What is 3/4? Let's see if it's gonna handle that. Cool. It still knows it's a number. That's great. What if I put it in quotes? Sleepy. The word sleepy in quotes. Control Enter. Now it says it's a string, a run of characters that can make up a text. So this is their definition. Whoever made Maria Cloud put in this definition. So you can look at my definition of a string, actual text including letters, numbers, punctuation, white space, and their definition, a run of characters. So basically each letter here is a character, but also white space can be a character. Characters can be white space or punctuation, etc. So that's the rule in Clojure, is that when you're making strings, you put them in quotes. So let me put that here. When making a string, it is written in, we'll say, double quotes. Not single quotes are not valid for strings in Clojure. So people coming from Python might be like, oh, I know I can write strings with one quote, single quote, or double quotes, but that won't fly in Clojure because it has a different meaning in Clojure. Let's see, what is circle? And that was the same as before. It's a function. Circle is a function. We defined it. It's it belongs to Maria Cloud. So here, Maria Cloud specific. Use pre-made functions that belong to Maria Cloud, such as what is circle and triangle, let's say, for example. And then there's some pre-built Clojure functions as well. Use pre-made functions such as doc, the one that gives us that that string of text right here. When we use this doc function, it tells us, what's the difference between what is and doc? Is a question that I get. So I'm going to write right here, what is and doc. And then also I'm going to say doc of doc. And we can we can basically talk with a computer here. So if I run what is on doc, it says, well, doc's a function. Yeah, of course it is. Everything's a function. Not everything is a function. But if I run doc on doc, it says here, doc takes a name, and then it shows documentation for a given symbol. So that might make you pause there for a moment. So doc is actually, it's a function that belongs to Maria here in this context too. Though there is a non-Maria doc function as well, built into Clojure. So I might need to kind of put an asterisk on this guy here that, no, this one actually belongs to, I'll come back to this one here and I'll put doc on here, because Maria has a doc function as well. Okay, I'm gonna move on if that's cool with you guys. But if you have any questions, feel free to just throw them at me. Okay, cool. All right, here, and I think we've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll try and wrap up this section here of code. We can even wrap parentheses around more parentheses. So this is called nesting. I'm going to run this cell of code here. So when I run this what is around circle, which takes 25, we get back this answer that it's a shape now. So before we did what is on circle, it says that circle is a function. But if I give circle 25, it can now draw that circle. It's ready to turn into an actual circle. So it says it's a shape, some geometry that Maria can draw. And that's why when we did circle 25 up above, we actually got an actual circle, because Maria can do that rendering as well. So I'm going to say that this is nesting here. So I'll write this here. Skill, Clojure. Nest a function call within another function call. And I'll give that example here. That example of code. That's an example. And I'll give an example to this as well of giving a function to an argument. That would be something like circle 25. And when we see another pre-made function, I'll come back to it. Let's see. I don't know if we called what is on what is, but what is also a function. So they say, you know, we have this code inspection toolbox of what is doc, these two functions, as well as the bottom of the screen documentation ones. So, you know, we could take a break here. I'm going to say we'll do a quick questions break and then stop for today with the code. I don't mind going further on. If everyone here feels good about this, we could go on further. But I did want to take a quick time to talk about workshop goals. You know, why you were here, what you hope to accomplish this week, and you know, what would make this an awesome experience for you. You know, I kind of just launched into, hey, let's learn Clojure, and now we're doing Clojure, but it's really good, I think, to be mindful. And also I want to be aware of what, you know, what brings you here and what you're hoping to accomplish, so that way you know that your time is being well spent, because I care about you guys having an awesome experience. We got 1 minute and 30 seconds. Feel free to throw anything out there. If you're welcome being recorded. If you would rather say it off the record, you don't have to say it now. You could say it after.
Are we coming back on Zoom, or are you going to send us a Google link?
Let's try Google next.
Okay.
Feel free, Carrie, to share the code that you've written. If you want to, you know, share your REPLs, you know, you can always get feedback from other people. And Python is generally, I wouldn't say it's like the lingua franca of the net necessarily, but most any C-based language, again, you know, C family language, we're talking about the families of languages. Clojure being in the Lisp family. Python is in the C family.
Mhm.
Most people who program, you can show them some C code or C based code and they'll be like, yeah, I kind of understand roughly what's going on, more or less.
Yeah, I've also tried learning some JavaScript too.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really
That can
bad.
be-
Whatever I need to write, I just find enough examples and then make it happen as I need it, which leads to like being able to talk about code, but not actually code anything like helpfully. So it's like only learning how to go to the market and ask where the bathroom is. And it's, you know, eventually you need to do more than that.
Yeah. I would say that the programming languages are a lot like musical instruments. You can, you know, some of them are easier than others to pick up and, you know, fiddle on, like a guitar maybe might be a little friendlier, or maybe violin and piano might be considered like very friendly starter instruments. But
Violin, a friendly starter instrument? What?
that's the instrument I started on.
Yeah, it's easier for like little kids, I guess, because like of the sizing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Lighter, it might be cheaper, easier to break and fix and repair, or just get a new one.
The violin?
Recorders are probably the best, though.
Oh, no? Yeah. Oh, I'm not.
In terms of lightness and cheapness and simplicity.
Very true. Tin whistles are good too. I didn't start learning violin until I was, I think, in high school, and that was a bad plan. I can play like a lot of instruments, but none of them beyond exceptionally well.
That's okay. That's the thing, is you need to practice, and I think we take it as a given that most people are not going to become pros. Most people will not become pros unless they study very effectively, you know, study with a good program or a good teacher or both. And so I think if we treat coding in a similar fashion to a musical instrument, you know, that there's theory, but then there's also just the hands-on, there's the doing, and then getting some real-time feedback, kind of like, you know, we wouldn't bat an eye if we said, oh, hey, I know this person, they're a great tennis coach, they could help you with your tennis form. Hey, I know this person who's a great violin teacher, they would help you improve on your whatever it is, you know, your rhythm, tempo, intonation, dynamics, whatever. But yeah, for code, it's a little bit, seems like a little more mysterious for some strange reason. I'm not sure why. But yeah, are you guys down to do a little bit of recording where we talk a little bit about, you know, what our motivations are for learning to code, or motivations for attending this boot camp? If anyone doesn't feel comfortable, that's totally cool that we not record this part, but I think it would be lovely if we can.
I don't mind.
Don't mind? Do you mind, Carrie?
I don't mind.
Yay. Okay, cool. And I'll share too if people like that too. Let me see if I have a recording option.
I do not. About
I do
Google
not.
Teams is that they have excellent captioning.
Google Hangouts, you mean?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can turn on my caption. Oh, wow.
You'd be amazed. They get it right.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, Microsoft Teams does pretty well as well.
Oh, I said they do, not I do.
Some captions like just come across as like random letters and gibberish.
Or like Instagrams now is just almost unreadable because they like segment and then you've got chunks and it's like, what are you doing? This is not how reading works. This is worse than if there were no captions. And I'm the last person on earth to say that because I have had a lot of awesome experiences in accessible advocacy and working with people with disabilities, and so I'm always the one that's like the annoying person. It's like, I need captions. I can't understand unless I have captions. I mean, I could probably understand a little bit, but I'll always benefit from captions, so I always just ask for them.
I understand. After I retired, I was diagnosed with auditory processing and ADHD, which I kind of always suspected, but never had it formally diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And it really affects kind of your self-image and going through life, like kind of having to make it all up because you don't hear everything or it doesn't make sense.
This is the same. I was diagnosed when I was 35. And yeah, it's one of those things where like, oh, well, that makes sense. Oh, dang. That's why everything is so hard. It actually is so hard.
Yeah. I would be a great spy because if I'm in like a crowded restaurant or like out on a date, I can't hear my dinner partner, but I can hear some woman on the other side of the room, like word for word. It's ridiculous.
I have that as well.
Because I can't discriminate necessarily where the sounds are coming from, and then sometimes I'll lock in on the weirdest ones. But I was like, I would have been a great spy. I could like get conversations from around the corner practically.
Yeah, I also hate that for dating too. People always want to go to a bar, and I'm like, how about the library?
Yeah.
Because that'll be my favorite spot anyway, and I'll be able to give you my full attention without extraneous effort.
Right.
Do you feel like teaching is much easier today, Carrie? Like remotely, because people are kind of like can't have the side chats as easily?
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason why I decided to not teach elementary school, because station teaching was a big thing, and it would be everyone like teaching at the same time, like in the same room with multiple teachers, and I couldn't focus. And then
what I don't understand what station teaching is.
Oh, it's where they're like in an elementary classroom, you have like around 20 kids, and it would be like different groups, like kids in groups of 5, and like I couldn't focus well enough to teach well enough, and then my students were having the same issues of not being able to focus either.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
But it's not a problem at all with high school, because high school students are like more tired, I guess.
Yeah, we keep them tired by making them wake up early.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, for my 3rd grader, Zoom is hard. It's so hard. And it's not because they're having side conversations. It's because, you know, E is asking to go to the bathroom every 10 seconds, and F is spinning on his chair, has no idea what's going on. And, you know, G is like actually reading the questions and has like a complicated question to ask. And like everyone is on a completely different level. And half of the things are just questions about like, their screen is off or something switched and they don't know what's happening and they're confused. And so the actual amount of teaching that happens is, unfortunately, it's just really, my heart just like aches for the teacher every time. It's tough.
I think the schools kind of deliberately did it as bad as possible, you know, so that they would not be obsolete. Because I think online education has so much promise, and like we wouldn't need school buses and you wouldn't have to wake up early, and you know the kids just would have to go over the material and sort of pass the tests, or you know there can be some other measure than sitting in front of a screen for 6-8 hours a day.
I think the problem, though, is that the teachers were told exactly how they had to do it. Like, they're set by, like, state standards to say, like, okay, they have to have this many hours a day. You know, they have to follow this curriculum and prepare for these tests. And, you know, you have to document it by checking ABC. And that's the only way, is by documenting it by ABC. And so it's, you know, because we were doing virtual and then moved to homeschool, with some different supports. And yeah, it's, you realize like what a box some of the teachers, like pretty much I think all the teachers are kind of put into boxes that don't really make sense. Like you don't really take an in-person classroom curriculum and move it into online, just like, bam, okay, we're ready. Well,
Yeah,
maybe
this is-
Avi does. Avi clearly does this. He's like, he was like, I want to start this. I'll need 2 weeks. And then the next day he's like, I have everything written. It's like-
yeah, I know, but like the teachers, like the schools just put it in Zoom, and that's like retarded. I can't even sit for 6 hours in front of a Zoom camera. Like, why would I expect a second grader to do it?
Yeah, it's really draining.
Because it's the state standard, so of course they're the law, they're the testament. We have to follow them no matter what. There could be no exceptions, or we're going to have children left behind. I don't mean to get political, but
I took an online class a couple of weeks ago, and it was at University of Singapore. And so, yes, whole different kind of approach to education. And the online teacher was incredible. He was very friendly and like talkative, but the way he used, and it was Microsoft Teams, the way he used it was amazing, and how he kept everyone engaged. I was just like, yeah, teachers should see this, just how this guy operates. So like he would take screenshots and then put it in a class picture, and that was sort of how he took attendance, by making this picture that everybody sort of looked forward to being in. And then as he was talking, he didn't want you to comment. He just wanted you to use an emoji, and it would be like a heart if you understood, like thumbs down if he was going too fast, or frowny face for something else. Like he would just pick like random funny emojis, and then he might ask a question and ask you A, B, or C, and then you had to like do a heart or a frowny face or a cactus or whatever correlated to the answer. So I mean, you just really almost felt like you were in the room with him, and it was amazing. But yeah, that was Singapore, not United States.
Well, I definitely want to do that sort of thing. I would like you guys to know that I would love to be able to, as much as I can, support fun, engaging online learning with you guys. That's my goal.
I'll try to get you access to one of his classes, or even a couple minutes of it.
Sure, I'd love to see a clip, or
he's hilarious.
Yeah, same.
What class are you taking?
It was She Loves Data is the nonprofit, and it's run through University of Singapore, and it's like an 8-week kind of data manipulation class, and they use Tibco as the software, which I hadn't heard of.
Tibco.
Yeah. So it's something kind of like Tableau, but it's different. And so that it was just so interesting to learn just even the tools and see how they were used.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I couldn't keep up with the Singaporean students, and all these timed assignments and tests. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Plus it was 8 hours different, so I was getting up in the middle of the night to listen to the lectures.
Oh wow.
But he was a really good speaker.
That's awesome.
May I ask everyone to share what their learning goals are? And Linnea, are we recording still?
Yep.
Awesome. Yay. I'll go first, if I may.
Sure.
My learning goal is to learn what I have not yet learned in Clojure with you guys. So by facilitating this boot camp, I hope that I can gain a greater awareness of where people might find Clojure to be either confusing or mystifying, or just to learn it to a deeper level, where someone is more curious than I was when I learned it first, and has the wherewithal to ask deeper, more insightful questions. We can learn together. You guys will teach me, hopefully, as much as I teach you. Who would like to go next? Laura, what would you like to learn in this boot camp?
What would I like to learn? Ideally, I want to master one language enough to be confident to go on job interviews, because I'm a career restarter, and I was a pharmaceutical chemist. I have a graduate degree in chemistry, but I'm interested in technology and trying to figure out the best way to fit in as a retirement job. So I don't need a super stressful job, and I don't need to have the humongous salary because I have my insurance already and a little bit of money for the rest of my life.
Sure.
But I want more because I want to do more. And so I just need some skills that are marketable and that I'm confident in.
Let me put out there, plug a little bit for Clojure, is that Clojure is incredibly simple. It has a learning curve like any other language. It might be a little harder to learn than some other programming languages. I would say that Python, for example, is easier to learn than Clojure. However, I would say Python is more beginner friendly. However, for someone who's already learned one language, if you've already learned one language, Python or JavaScript or Java or any other language, then I think learning Clojure is an awesome way to have a wonderful, joyful programming experience, because it solves a lot of issues with other programming languages, which we'll go into. But I want you to know that you should feel very optimistic. I hope you feel optimistic, because you can feel optimistic about Clojure. Also, under the hood, it's using Java. So any Java you've learned, you can use that in Clojure too.
Okay.
And I know you took a Java course.
Oh, more than one.
So all that knowledge is useful. You can still use that. You don't need to know Java, but it gives you some extra options when you are programming in Clojure. Let's see. Can I pick on you, Linnea, to say what you'd like to experience in this boot camp? Any requests or intentions or wishes?
I'm not sure that I necessarily have specific goals for this boot camp, other than I want to provide feedback, and I think that I'm kind of an ideal learner for this sort of thing. So, and I feel confident offering feedback, but I'm also just excited to connect with people who are excited, and so that's a huge benefit for me. But overall, I also am going through a bit of a shift in trajectory career-wise. And I joined this open source project with Avi, and it was very clear, at least the impression that I received after a couple of weeks in the boot camp, that your value was based on how well you could code Clojure. So, despite that I may have slightly disagreed with that assessment, that was the overwhelming thing presented to me. So I was like, all right, well, I'll learn some Clojure then, because I really want this product, and I also really want to be involved in its creation, because I want to see how that works, because I like that idea of open source, and I have been in some other smaller projects, but I've never really committed to a project and seen it from this point forward. I've only looked at ones that are much further along in their life cycle. But I am very interested in data. I'm coming from linguistics, and I really like corpus studies, and I would like to. I've learned, studied some NLP over the years, and played a little bit with data sets, but I want to be able to not have to rely on any other tools. Like I want to be able to understand exactly how to manipulate my data, how I want to manipulate it, and I also hope to like up my math skills, so maybe that could be transferable into some kind of data science sort of thing. But yeah, I hope I didn't talk too much. Sorry.
Not at all. That is all fantastic, awesome stuff. I took some notes in the Coggle on, what our learner background is a little bit. I would say learner cohort background.
Yeah, I'm actually an English major with a Chinese, English and honors with Chinese business. So
nice. Very nice.
But I was in like admin and I taught in university for the last 15 years. So
very cool. We've got a very strong academic education crew this time. I'm very happy. Carrie, would you like to share anything any ideas or hopes or goals?
Well, it's okay. I love learning like live languages, and I'm interested in expanding that to learn computer languages as well. So I've started with Python, and now I've dabbled a little bit in JavaScript, and now I'm interested in learning Clojure. And I'm also career-wise interested in moving more towards the edutech sphere.
Same, very much. I wouldn't be surprised if the four of us start our own edutech company, honestly.
I'm in. Let's have that conversation. I got ideas. I just came from an education startup before I was in this project, so I've got that experience to help inform and offer background.
Ooh, I'm very interested to hear more about your experience. I'm going to say we should probably call it a session, call it a night here. I'm just going to take a quick look one more time. I'm going to present for a second here on my screen, a particular window, just for a moment here. See, make sure I didn't skip anything here. Can you guys see my screen here? Does it say Clojure Bootcamp for open source? Yes, good, awesome. So yeah, basically want to make sure we did some Clojure writing together, about 30 minutes roughly. We went over some vocabulary. I don't expect that to be a final one and done thing. That's a work in progress document there. We didn't brainstorm how to learn effectively, but we did do some chatting. So I could say we did some chatting. If you have any further questions, definitely feel free to ask them here now or email them to me afterwards. I might say, let's do this next time for the brainstorming ways to learn effectively. I would like us to do some pair programming in this boot camp. I would like us to do some group work in this boot camp. As time and everyone's schedule allows, if it's too ambitious, well, we're not forced to do all our work this week, but ideally we'll try to wrap up to a nice finishing save point. I'm gonna make an intention here not to give you guys homework, but try to finish the Maria.cloud document that I sent you guys. I will reshare all the relevant links, and I'll put all the relevant links here in this one next journal document, which I've already emailed to everyone, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. So Avi's next to-dos. So I don't, it can hold me accountable for this, which will be to-do list. This is part of the reason why I like next journal. Add all relevant links to next journal workshop document. Next journal. ask everyone to try and finish the Maria.cloud Clojure bridge exercise, we call it. It's actually a coding notebook. And I'm going to put that as a vocab word. Coding notebook. And that is a document with code cells that can be individually run. May also allow for markdown cells, which are markdown cells. And I'm not going to bore you guys by defining all the verbs here, although all the things for you live, but definitely I hope to finish here. I'll write that down here as for my homework. Add any missing definitions to the Coggle mind map. Did anyone want to suggest a different, like, I want to have pictures, I want to have slides, I would like to have awesome learning materials here. So Maria Cloud, I did not make. Clojure Bridge, their day one curriculum, I borrowed that. That's, publicly available. But, I would love to build more things for you guys. I've made a map of Clojure. It's a work in progress map. Linnea has seen it. It's a mess right now. But, just to give you a sneak preview, Clojure concept map. I would love to invite people. This is not why I'm doing the bootcamp, but my hope is that also one of my goals out of this bootcamp is, in addition to learning things about Clojure that I didn't know before, is to help build something that will help people, kind of like our legacy, something that we could leave behind to help people learn Clojure without us, let's say. So for example, this is a learning path idea where you make a Hello World program. Hello World is like the first program you might write in a language. This learning path B is what we did today. We went to Maria Cloud, optionally make a free account, read through and follow along the exercises. So we did 30 minutes of learning path B, which I just plucked out of my brain. It didn't, no one told me, hey, this is what you have to do specifically. Though you might bump into, different people's opinions on the internet. I can tell you from my personal experience, using Maria Cloud helped me kind of connect this visual shape language with what's going on with this code. Until you actually see the code do something, I think it can be very hard to understand conceptually what's going on. So I love Maria Cloud, and that's why I'm encouraging us to use it. You don't have to use Maria Cloud to learn Clojure. Many people I know don't even know what Maria Cloud is. But I think it's great, and that's why I recommend it. So, if you might think that contributing to this map, like for example, this is a map of, this has things like different Clojure libraries that you don't need to know, but they exist out there as libraries and frameworks, things that will extend your code. If this is overwhelming, don't worry. This is more than you need to think about right now, but even where you are at day one of Clojure, you have something relevant to add. Your experience and your perspective means a lot because it's generalizable, but also because you have your unique vision and your unique talents, your unique perspective. So if, helping to build a map or a learning path, for example, might excite you, that would be cool to collaborate with you on this. That's a little plug. But if you said, for example, to me, hey, Avi, I want to build a game using Clojure, like a text adventure game. That's something you could do on week one. Text adventure is a very very doable thing for a first week of a new programming language, especially when it's not your first. And I know for a fact that Carrie has written a text adventure-like program already. And Laura too, I'm pretty sure Laura was in a class that I was in. We took a class together, right? So things like that, what might be some good projects for this week? We can discuss that tomorrow or Wednesday. So please chime in. What are your guys' thoughts? I talked a lot there.
So one little sidebar for tomorrow is I want a little quick review of REPL because I'm looking at Carrie.
Yes.
And can I
can we do a quick review of
REPL? Yeah, I guess I
yes.
have
the answer is yes.
GitHub. Yeah.
We will do a review tomorrow of REPL. Actually, I don't think I even taught what REPL was today.
No, well.
No, but that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. You're ahead of the game. That's good. That is really good.
So yeah, because I've been just kind of looking at it and okay, how am I going to bookmark this? Can I fork it? And then I'm coming up blank. So I thought, let's ask Abby.
Thank you. What are some suitable / appropriate starter first week projects for a Clojure learner? Such as, for example, a text adventure game. What else did we say was a good starter project?
And for me, I always have trouble finding stuff later. So I want to know how, whatever we do here, I want to put it in REPL or GitHub so that if I want to reference it, in a web page or a portfolio, I know how to make it.
So you are asking for a demo of Replit.com.
Yeah.
We do a quick review / demo of Replit.com, and the answer is yes. Today we used Maria Cloud, but what Laura is referencing to is Replit.com, formerly known as Repl.it. It is now called Replit.
Okay.
Replit.com.
Carrie shared her link or her site page.
Yes.
Server,
yes.
Whatever you call it.
Program.
Yeah.
Carrie shared a program, and you shared with us the She Loves Data link. Those are great links. I'm going to copy them.
Okay.
I can't see the
please include
chat.
them in the Coggle.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So I will add a resources to this guy here as well. I try not to double post as much as I can, but it's convenient sometimes too. So I will add these resources. So this is Carrie's one of Carrie's programs, and then also She Loves Data link, and we can add some annotations to those later. So I can do that one more time. I remove this node. Let's see if I can do that. Delete branch, copy branch. I don't know. That's okay. I will mess with Coggle later. Something that they might, be interested to work on or build on this week, or if not, that's okay.
I've been working on building a random generator, and I was trying to do it in SQL, but maybe I could do some kind of version of that.
Could you say one or two more words about what kind of random generator, a random generator of numbers, or all sorts of things?
Well, it's of yoga poses.
Cool. Okay, I like that. I like that idea very much.
And eventually, I want to, control it with algorithms or variables. To practice playing with how to connect, in a very Athens kind of way, like a database.
Awesome.
Build a random yoga pose generator?
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that possible? Is that good, or should I keep that project in SQL and have a different project?
No, I think this. I mean, this would be a fantastic project. I think. Let me put it here to random yoga pose generator. So it's both a goal, but also it's an awesome, suitable first week project. You don't have to do it this week, but it is something that I think you would be able to do pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I will not do the REPL demo now. Just, as we're talking, I'm going to see if I can log in real quick here and just kind of like highlight that once you've logged into replit.com, you can hit this plus icon and click Clojure and then click create REPL. Don't have to memorize this. We'll have a little step-by-step for next time.
Okay, so one app I was wanting to write this year, but I never got around to it. It started out, there was a competition at the community college sponsored by Red Bull, and they wanted you to do an app, and but you had to do a video to send it in, which I fell on my face with. But I live near the Chesapeake, and everyone is crazy about kayaking right now. And as soon as we get a couple warm days, people want to go out on the water. And last year there was a terrible drowning of someone in the Kennedy family and their child on an early spring day. So I want to do an app that you put in the water temperature and the air temperature, and it calculates and tells you what safety gear you should wear. So do you need a dry suit? Do you need a wetsuit?
That's an awesome idea. I'm going to put in here
quick little calculation so people are aware of
water and air temperature safety calculator program.
Because
that is an awesome. Here, I'll put in here something that I like to do when I learn a new language. Usually, it's a macronutrient calculator. It might sound silly, but I've tried a couple diets in the past, and one of them told me I had to calculate my protein and my all that stuff. So that's a little project that one could put in some formulas into and calculate. You creating a program for people's safety, that's amazing, and it doesn't require sophisticated. There's probably a simple formula out there, right?
It is. It's air temperature plus water temperature should equal 100, or else you need a dry suit. Because the amount of time that you could survive in the water compared to how long it would take for somebody to rescue you, you're not going to survive.
Right.
And that's all calculated. You can find all that.
Right, and probably how deep someone should go out or shouldn't go out, and all sorts of things like that, right?
It has to do with
maybe the height of the river.
Water. Yeah.
And the current, the speed of the current, such, right?
That's not as I
mean, but for this case, right? I understand.
Yeah, we can keep it simple. I mean, you could do a lot, but mostly if you're it equals 100, you should be okay. If it's less than that, you need special gear so that you stand a chance at being rescued.
So again, I was saying my goal is not to make this be a Replit demo tonight, but just as we're talking here, I'll try and make a little demo function here. Is safe to swim. And I'm actually going to define a full function here. So you just let me know if this is boring or you want to see something else while we're chatting here. Water temp, air temp. And I'm not going to write the full program for you, but just as an example, let's say if adding the water temp to the air temp, if all that is less than 100, then we'll return safe to swim. It's safe to swim. Otherwise, we'll say it's not safe to swim. So let's find out if this program works as I think it's supposed to work. So I'm gonna call this function is safe to swim. And let's just say the water temperature is 60 degrees and the air temperature is 60 degrees. So this should be, oh no. If it is greater than 100, it's safe, right? If it's less than 100, it's not safe to swim, right? Laura?
Yes. I
Okay.
turn my mic off. Yeah, or you would need safety gear.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. It is safe to swim. Water temperature. Did I not write this out right? Let me see here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No, this is written right. Okay, it says I didn't have enough arguments to if. Oh, I added the closing parentheses too quickly. Okay, there we go. So, and now I need an extra parentheses here. There we go. Now it is good. Okay, so it's important to have your parentheses lining up. So this first line says we're going to make a function. Line 1. Line 2 says it's going to call this function is safe to swim. Line 3 says we're going to take 2 arguments, water temperature, and we'll call them water temperature and air temperature. And line 4 says if the addition, the sum of water temperature and air temperature is greater than 100, give back line 5. It's safe to swim. But if it's not, then we'll give back it's not safe to swim.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in this first case, where the water temperature is 60 and the air temperature is 60 degrees, we get it's safe to swim. And in the second case, on line 9 now, we'll get back it's not safe to swim. So if I changed the first one to be 0 and 0 and ran it, we'll get print out twice. It's not safe to swim because neither of these are now safe to swim. So this is like a very simplified version of what you were talking about, but a fuller, more accessible version. I think we lost Carrie. A fuller, more rich version of the program we're talking about here would be something along the lines of maybe asking the user, hey, what is the air temperature?
Right.
What is the water temperature? They put them both in, and then it says for air temperature this and water temperature that, you should not go swimming, or you should not swim for more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, because
Yeah.
if not, you will get hypothermia.
Yes.
Okay, Karen said she had to head out. Cool. Yeah, so we went over time today, but I guess we can say that that's roughly a session there. Do either of you guys have any questions here? I know I kind of just jumped ahead and made a function. I didn't kind of lay the groundwork really nicely. But this is kind of a sneak preview of what we'll do on Wednesday. And give you guys all tomorrow to let the Clojure kind of percolate. And tomorrow we'll do Git and GitHub, which Laura's been asking me for a while now. You don't have to admit it.
No, it's okay.
It's just like every other week. She's like, so Avi, we're going to do some GitHub? I'm like, yes, next week. Next week.
Yeah.
This is that week.
So many things to think about. It's just so hard to choose.
But now we tomorrow is the night. Tomorrow we'll do some Git and GitHub, and it will be great. You guys are awesome. I'm so excited. I had a really nice time tonight. I hope it wasn't too much like drinking from a fire hose in a bad way.
Yeah.
In a good way, hopefully.
no, it's always fun.
So will we be able to put captions on the Zoom videos as well, Linnea, or will that be tricky?
I can put captions on any video if I have it.
Okay. So, well, we can talk later about whether I should send you my video or
Maybe
you
I
could just use
can.
yours.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
Any last final words before I tell you guys to scram?
No, I'll see you tomorrow. This was fun.
Yay, I'm so happy. Thank you, Laura. You're wonderful.
Good night.
Good night, Laura.
Bye.
So wonderful to meet you.
Yes, it was
See
nice
ya.
to meet you too, Linnea.
See you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.
Bye-bye.